Thanks for joining us for this week's Health News You Can Use. I'm Lindsay Stish. This week, we're talking about new research that shows magnesium and vitamin D can reduce the severity of COVID-19 infections. I'm here today with Dr. James O'Keefe, co-author of the study and preventive cardiologist at St. Luke's Mid-America Heart Institute. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Great to be here, Lindsay.
Well, the impact of COVID-19 varies dramatically between individuals. More than 400,000 people have died from severe complications, while others are asymptomatic or only have mild symptoms. It's all dependent on the ability of a person's immune system to fight the virus. Dr. O'Keefe, how do magnesium and vitamin D levels play a role in the strength of a person's immune system?
Yeah, so our immunity is a complex thing, but it turns out that some nutrients are particularly important for maintaining a vigilant, powerful immune defense against invaders like this coronavirus. So vitamin D and magnesium are the two micronutrients that we focused on particularly during this review study and found very interesting results.
And you and your colleagues reviewed multiple studies of COVID patients who took some of these supplements. What were your findings?
So this was a review of the literature looking at the topics of vitamin D and magnesium with respect to immune function and outcomes with COVID. And to summarize, we found very consistent data showing that vitamin D seems to be a powerful booster to the immune system, so that people who keep their vitamin D levels above 30, that's the lower level of normal, tend to be much more resistant, like 80 or 90% less likely to end up in the hospital on a ventilator or dying from COVID compared to people who have vitamin D levels above 30. So in other words, it's important to keep your vitamin D levels above the deficient range. So, and that is a common problem in America. A lot of people are vitamin D deficient, especially in the winter months. So that I think it makes sense to supplement with vitamin D3, about 2,000 units per day. But these studies started coming out back in the spring, just at the beginning of this pandemic. But there have been, multiple studies since then, and each one has been consistently showing. It doesn't prove, because these are observational studies, but showing that it's an adequate vitamin D level above 30 is associated with a much stronger immunity against severe COVID illness and a lower likelihood for adverse events. Similarly, with much fewer data, magnesium also correlates with better immunity and lower risk for severe COVID illness. Magnesium does help to activate vitamin D, and that way helps to bolster the immunity. And this is another simple over-the-counter supplement that's non-toxic. But the bottom line is that magnesium deficiency tends to predispose to the COVID illness, and keeping your magnesium levels in a normal range is important to do with diet and, if need be, a simple supplement.
So how common are magnesium and vitamin D deficiencies?
Unfortunately, these are really common in the American population. So magnesium, probably upwards of 50% of Americans aren't at the ideal intake. And this is one where, it helps to be a little bit even in the high range of intake of magnesium, in the 400 or 500 milligrams per day. With vitamin D, if you look at vitamin D deficiency, that's less than 20. That's probably about 10 to 20% of Americans are in that frankly deficient range. But if you look at insufficiency, that is less than 30, then you get upwards of 60% or 70% of Americans are not, especially this time of year, are not in that ideal range for vitamin D.
So what's the best way to raise magnesium and vitamin D levels?
Well, the natural ways are to eat a high magnesium diet and to get out and get your sunshine and eat some cold water fish that are high in magnesium and vitamin D. But again, in the winter and with our busy schedules and our modern American diets, these are two nutrients that it probably makes sense for a lot of people to supplement with, say, 2,000 units of vitamin D3 during the winter, especially during this pandemic. It's a good idea. And magnesium, if you're going to do it, I would say take 200, 300, maybe even 400 milligrams of magnesium. These are nutrients that are easily tested by your doctor. Ask your doctor for a vitamin D level and a magnesium level. If you're on things like a diuretic for high blood pressure, that's a fluid pill, that predisposes to magnesium deficiency, as do a lot of chronic diseases, kidney disease, high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer. There's a lot of conditions, obesity, that can predispose to magnesium deficiency, as well as vitamin D deficiency.
Now, were you surprised to learn something as simple as magnesium and vitamin D had such a significant impact?
I really wasn't surprised by that, because we've known for a long time that these are common nutritional deficiencies that have wide-ranging adverse effects on our health, from the cardiovascular health to our mental health to immune function to bone and muscle function. So no, it wasn't really a big surprise, but I guess I am surprised by the strength of the protection that is associated with keeping these levels in the normal range. And again, these aren't randomized controlled studies, so we can't absolutely take this to the bank, but you can reassure yourself that these are non-toxic. You're taking small to moderate doses that have other benefits as well. So I think it's a pretty safe, simple strategy for optimizing your health and improving your resilience to infection during this pandemic.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. O'Keefe, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you'd like to find out more about COVID-19, including information on testing and vaccines, visit stlukeskc.org/COVID-19. You can also stay up to date with all the latest developments on the COVID pandemic and other health news from St. Luke's at stlukeskc.org/news. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time on Health News You Can Use.